Hello, this is John Golda with Solid Rock Marriage Restoration. So I'm glad you can join me. Hope this is very helpful for you, and I've been looking forward to sharing this. So I've shared this previously in posts in writing, but I haven't come live to talk about it yet. I really wanted to share just how I broke the cycle, if you will, and shifted from a failed marriage to a love story that endures, and how you can too. So I believe that that God can use both my failures and successes to help us to help others in their marriages. And He certainly used it in my life to help me become a better husband and have a stronger marriage with Tanya. And I know and I see Him using this to help others that we work with as well. And so I'm here to kind of share some of my story, what gets me motivated about this subject. Um, I've read, we can all read about struggling marriages. I hear clients share, never-ending challenges that they're facing. I see marriages stumble and fall in people I know around me, or stumble and just kind of keep stumbling. They don't divorce, but they're really kind of not happy and struggling. Um, and I was inspired to kind of, and led by God to come into this effort to help others turn their marriages around, transform their lives um, by a lot of these challenges, and bringing the perspective of a husband who has failed at marriage once, and I've made a promise never to do it again. I have experienced the pain of divorce and my fair share of challenges in my current marriage as well. But I'm now happily married for over 18 years to the love of my life, Tanya. I know everyone's got a different story. Hopefully, some of you can learn and from those of us who have been through this, and don't have to go through the same pitfalls, or maybe it can rescue you from the pitfalls that you've been going through. So more than 20 years ago, before I ever knew Tanya, who I'm enjoying every day now, my first marriage ended in divorce. We didn't have a good foundation. We didn't have proper expectations. To have a thriving marriage. We failed to understand each other's dreams and desires on a deeper level. We didn't know how to be godly husbands or wife, like a godly husband or wife. We just assumed that we were already on the path because we went to church together. We didn't have great, looking at examples around us. We had examples, but it wasn't really crystal clear how to really go about creating a successful marriage, one that really thrives, and for us. And we were not as deeply rooted in Christ as I certainly am now today. And so, again, this is in my first marriage. So we failed to establish, meaningful emotional and physical intimacy, and started drifting apart. Eventually, we lost that. That so many people talk about that feeling of being in love. I am firmly in the camp of believing that love is something we demonstrate, we show, we choose. It's not just a feeling that happens to us. But I do understand that feeling, and we lost that special feeling of connectedness and intimacy that comes from showing love to one another. It wasn't long after that, it was a couple years into marriage, that my then wife initiated the path towards divorce. And I was exhausted and depleted. I didn't do everything that I should have done to stop the divorce. I was willing to work on the marriage. I resisted the divorce, but I didn't do enough. I didn't understand enough, go deeply enough with God. Didn't understand enough about how I needed to be a godly husband to stop the divorce and save that marriage. So I spent the next several years healing from that divorce and wondering where I went wrong as a man and as a husband. And as I pursued a deeper relationship with myself and God, that's when I found and married Tanya, to whom I've been married to for now over 18 years. The first couple of years went well, as is very typical. for newlyweds. Later, we started experiencing what to me were familiar signs of really a challenged marriage, some real flaws or kinks in the armor. And so, just like my first marriage, Tanya and I were having difficulty communicating. We were often misunderstanding each other's perspectives and intentions. We had a tendency to focus only on our own perspective, our own needs and desires, and not really understand. Even if we were trying, we didn't really understand the other very deeply to know how to deal with their wants and needs and desires. We didn't know what to expect from each other. And we failed to define a common vision for any detail of our lives together in marriage. What that common vision was. I mean, there were surface level vision. I mean, we understood we wanted to have children. We didn't. We wanted to have a marriage that would last forever. We were following Christ, but really getting down to detailed vision and defining what it's like to be a godly husband and wife, what we should expect from each other. We didn't get to that. I was forceful in my communication with Tanya on important topics, and it significantly hurt her. It was really a style thing. It wasn't that I didn't love her and wasn't trying to include her, but there were some things we disagreed on. We tried to work through them. We ultimately had to make a decision, and the way in which I went through that was very difficult given our very different personalities. Tanya is very reserved. I'm very direct by nature. She felt overpowered and at times withdrew and feared being fully honest with me about unresolved issues. And so they just stayed and festered. They didn't heal. We didn't move together fully. And as we struggled to fully forgive each other, those wounds needed to heal, but they weren't fully healing. They were staying open because we hadn't fully resolved them. So the damage to our love was getting worse. And I found myself, we accepted for a while kind of good enough. Our marriage is good enough. Maybe it can't be better. We don't know how to make it better. We're not pursuing a divorce. And it really stopped us from taking stronger action, more immediate action to try and revive the marriage, to help it flourish. And so if you're not flourishing, you're slowly dying. There's very little, breaking even in the relationships. You're either growing or retreating in intimacy. So at that moment, I realized, as I would tell folks so often today, just starting over with a different spouse is not going to solve your problems. It's not going to make you a better spouse. It's not going to help. There may be different problems, but everyone that you may be married to is going to have problems. We're all going to have problems. We're all going to have conflicts. We're all going to have disagreements. And so if we don't learn how to deal with that, then just because you've divorced and started over, it doesn't mean you're not going to run into similar problems again. So really, we tried seminars, books, and other resources. Friends of the family, friends, family, books. We scrambled with different solutions, trying to, save the marriage. And every solution we found just created temporary fixes with no lasting change. And so within a few months, we'd slip back and be doing the same thing we were doing before, same habits. There was no real process for locking in transformational change. And so even where we would make improvements, it would slip back, and we really weren't getting to truly deeper understanding of each other, so we could work through the most fundamental issues in our personality and how we interacted together. I was hurting and frustrated, but I was committed that I was keeping my marriage with Tanya, and I wasn't going to end up in divorce again. And so it took a hard right turn to really do something more dramatic. And so I wanted to restore myself as a husband, fix our broken marriage. And here's what I did. So it starts with, I had to be honest with myself about my marriage. I had to admit to myself in the mirror, without excuses, without justifications, that my marriage was not where I wanted it to be. And, I had to accept that good enough is not the goal God has for us in marriage. Getting by is not it. There's more. He wants us to flourish and thrive. I had to fully submit my marriage to God. so my wife could fully submit herself to me as her husband. I committed to doing hard work and developing a godly mindset for my role as a husband, regardless of how Tanya lived out her role as my wife, so unconditionally. Um, I had to take charge and lead Tanya in a loving and understanding way. I had to become the man she wanted to follow, even when we disagreed or had conflict. I had to get out of my own selfishness. And when I say selfishness, it's not that I was always thinking of myself and my wants, but even when I would think of Tanya and try and do things for her, I wasn't understanding her deeply enough to really understand and help her and address the situation from a deep understanding of what were her needs. And so I still say that was selfish. I saw the world through my own perspective, through my own personality, and I couldn't see clearly how everything that, if I saw blue, she was seeing pink. There's just differences in how we saw things. And I didn't really understand her perspective. And it's important. I had to take charge. I had to get out of that. And I had to understand my wife on a deeper level, on a more intimate level. And there's a number of resources we went through on that journey. And I will be the first to tell you, marriages don't transform overnight. But the more I went down the road to becoming a better man and a better husband, God's way, Tanya began to respond favorably and followed suit, working on her role as a woman and as a wife. Eventually, we sat down together, we pulled together the resources, developed a clear vision for our marriage. Everything we've been looking at and searching and putting together, we put it all together. And, we started seeing substantial restoration in our marriage. And so glad that God was with us and that we invested that time and commitment to prioritize our marriage. With this new method, we call it Marriage God's Way with MAA. It's mindset, action, and accountability. We transformed our relationship. Really, it happened more quickly than you might think. Within 3 months, we went from, roommate status to really rekindling that special connection, that special intimacy as husband and wife, and continued to grow from there. And it was great to try and rekindle and to see progress in rekindling that same kind of special feeling of love and intimacy that we felt when we were getting married to begin with, right? At the beginning, that's a special feeling. Tanya and I felt secure in our relationship. We felt secure in our relationship and had a much better understanding of how to know, love, and serve one another, which really made efforts more powerful as we tried to serve each other. The better we understand each other, the better we can love and serve each other. That's what I'm trying to say. We have a clear vision now for our marriage and how to achieve and maintain it. It keeps us in unity, working together. We understand that we're going to face challenges, but we don't define our relationship or our feelings, our relationships or feelings towards one another anymore. Our challenges don't define our relationships or feelings towards one another because we have a deeper connection and we understand we're going to have disagreements. And that doesn't mean that we are rejecting each other. It means we are working through disagreements together. Communication's never been better. We support one another. We de-escalate or avoid unnecessary arguments. We have confidence we can solve problems together. We don't have to withhold or hide or in my case, be too strong, too firm. We can work through it together, conscious of each other's personalities and differences. Tanya's able to be fully honest with me about her feelings and desires without feeling intimidated. We've learned to forgive much more quickly and to heal from past hurts. We strive to serve one another rather than meet our own needs first, and that's with a deeper understanding, not just that surface level of what we think our spouse wants. Above all, we know that we're not each other's enemy. We are united in submission to God and resisting the attack of the enemy. I'd love to say we just had a fairy tale marriage and it all happened. There was no struggle, there was no strife. But the reality is that almost never happens. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be things that make it hard. And you really have to, we had to get down and dirty, if you will, turn our marriage inside out, stay committed to the marriage God's way with MAA method we had developed. With God's help, we transformed our marriage from stumbling and struggling to thriving. And so glad we invested that. I appreciate God's help Um, we prayed, we trusted God, we did the hard work, and we made it a priority. We didn't put it off, put it off, put it off. Tanya and I both believe if you want to transform your marriage and you're willing to do the work and to trust God and to change how you're living out your role as husband and wife, that you can see a breakthrough and a transformation like we did. So stop trying to save your marriage on your own. A lot of times we internalize that. We think we have to save it on our own. We can't get help. It's some kind of a failure to get help, or we don't know who can help us, or maybe we're ready to get help, but our spouse isn't, and so we don't. So no one gets help, and that's not the right answer either. Stop waiting for your spouse to take the lead, to wake up. It only takes one to initiate a new marriage. It takes two to get there fully. I understand that, but it only takes one to initiate. And it's sad when I see so often one spouse that wants to restore the marriage is basically choosing not to work to that because the other spouse didn't say they want to do it, or they're waiting for the other spouse to start it. We should be a race to be the more mature spouse in the relationship. We should each be saying, hey, I'm going to take that step. I'm going to lead. I don't care. The marriage is obviously struggling. I'm not going to play games with whose role it is to lead. I'm not going to refuse to lead and try and save my marriage because my husband or my wife, I'm going to take the action I can take, and I'm going to get help, and I'm going to seek God, and I'm going to transform how my marriage is, where it's headed, not waiting for my spouse to take action. And I'm also, I would say you got to stop just waiting for God to fix your marriage. It's great for God to fix your marriage. It's great to invite Him and ask Him, and He may work to that end. But in most cases, as I look through the Bible, the example is there's action that needs to be taken on our part. David had to go confront Goliath. Gideon had to go and confront the enemy and send his troops home, even when it didn't make sense. But he had to take action. So if you're just waiting for God to fix your marriage and you're not doing anything, that's not the right approach. Pray like it's up to God, work like it's up to you, and He'll help you. So we believe no marriage is hopeless. With God, all things are possible. He can make a way where we don't see a way. And so our challenge to you: what are you waiting for? If you want to strengthen your marriage, if you want to transform your marriage, restore it, reclaim your life, get started today. We'd be happy to hear from you. You can reach out to us, contact us, and we'd love to have a free consultation with you and hear what your situation is and see if we might be able to help you, and share with you what helped us and share with you what's helping others that we work with. So I hope this has been helpful to you. It really has been an important chapter in several chapters in my life and in Tanya's life. So we look forward to hearing from you. May the grace and peace of God be with you.